and last HealthMatters program project search webinar of the season. Today, we're together for about an hour, and we're going to be talking about using the HealthMatters curriculum with the project search program model. A little bit about the presentation today. Project Search is committed to supporting health and fitness education during the transition to employment. Accordingly, Project Search partnered with UnitedHealthcare to provide Project Search programs with HealthMatters program. More recently, they were awarded a grant from the Ohio DD Council to study the use of the HealthMatters curriculum in the context of Project Search. As part of this project, they have created a clear set of guidelines for integrating HealthMatters curriculum into Project Search. The goal is to optimize learning of health and fitness principles in a way that complements and enhances the primary Project Search goal of competitive employment. In this presentation, Mary Ellen and Karen will introduce the new guidelines document and discuss the findings from piloting the guidelines at the Project Search sites throughout Ohio in the 2018-19 program year. And I wanted to introduce Mary Ellen Daston and Karen Guo. Mary Ellen has a background in biomedical research and technical writing. As a Project Search program specialist for data and communications, she's responsible for identifying state and federal funding opportunities, preparing grant applications, and managing the database and website content. She's also co-authored a book on the history, philosophy, and practices of Project Search. Karen is a pediatric occupational therapist. She achieved her BS degree in psychology at the University of Michigan and Doctorate of Occupational Therapy at the Ohio State University. She began her collaboration with HealthMatters and Project Search as a graduate student studying health education and promotion for individuals with developmental disabilities, and continues as a part of the team to create a usable guideline for instructors to routinely implement HealthMatters into their Project Search curriculum. Welcome to both of you. Mary Ellen, I'm going to unmute you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Thank you so much, Yasmina and Karen, for joining me, and to all of you who are attending today. I really appreciate it. So as Yasmina said, we're talking about using the HealthMatters curriculum with the Project Search program model. Now, first I want to introduce our study team. It's me, Mary Ellen, at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, where Project Search was founded and where we still manage the Project Search program. Karen Guo is an occupational therapist at Abilities First in Springboro, Ohio. Julie Christensen works with APSE and the Harkin Institute. She's our supported employment expert. Dennis Cleary is also an occupational therapist who works with employment and people with disabilities. He's at Indiana University South Bend. And Beth Marks and Yasmina, our host, are the authors of the HealthMatters curriculum. So we have a great team. So I wanted to start out with what is Project Search, and I know that most of you probably already know. Some of you probably work with Project Search programs, many of you, but I know that we have a broader audience today, and I just wanted to sort of do a quick background and bring everybody up to date, and then I'll give the background of this project and bring us up to where we are currently, and then Karen will take over and talk about our most recent findings since we presented on this at the Project Search conference last summer. She'll talk about our more recent progress. So what is Project Search? It's a transition to work program for young people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It takes place entirely in the workplace. We call it total workplace immersion. Young people are taken out of the school environment and placed for an entire school year into the workplace, where they can learn job skills, employability skills, and everything they need to know to operate in an employment situation in the workplace. The goal for every Project Search intern is competitive employment. There are the total workplace immersion. There's a classroom on site for learning employability skills, and then they also go out to the departments in whatever business they're in and learn specific job skills and practice career exploration. And then towards the end of the program, each participant is engaged in a customized, individualized job search. And by the time they're done, we hope that they're all moving on to competitive jobs. So Project Search is all about employment. So why are we interested in a health and fitness curriculum? Well, the reason for that is that we know that the young people that we serve who have intellectual and developmental disabilities have a higher incidence of chronic illnesses and decreased community participation, overall reduced quality of life and health. And there are many reasons for this. The barriers that are faced by people with disabilities are numerous, and it's a bit of a vicious cycle. The decreased community participation leads to health problems, and then those health problems further exacerbate the decreased community participation. And we know that to be successfully employed, you really must have your health, and then there's a reciprocal interaction. Having a job and being engaged and having that income and everything that goes along with the job can help improve health and increase the ability to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So we wanted to look at whether we were meeting this need in the Project Search program. This is a chart that takes a little getting used to understand. The turquoise and the yellow line in the middle are a pre-Project Search assessment of the different parameters that you can see around the outside of the star: time management, community integration, employability, motivation, self-care, etc. And you can see, so the yellow and the turquoise are the pre-Project Search assessment, and then the orange and the darker blue are post. So when you see, for example, emotional and mental health, you see a big difference between pre and post. Meaningful use of time, again, a big difference. Employability, a big difference. But when you look at physical health, there's not much change. So when we saw this is a small study. This was done in Scotland when Project Search was first initiated in that country, and the Scottish government wanted to do some assessment of the effectiveness of the program. So this is 2 years of 2 Project Search classes. So it's a small group, but it gave us an indication that maybe we could really do more to beef up the health and fitness aspect of the Project Search curriculum. So the challenge, of course, is Project Search is all about employment, and there's a lot going on in every Project Search site. It's a busy day, a busy school year with a lot going on. This is a typical Project Search day. All of the interns arrive at the host business at about 8 o'clock in the morning. There's about an hour there in the morning to be in the on-site classroom or meeting room to learn employability skills and do other curriculum activities. And then by 9 o'clock, around 9 o'clock, the interns are going out to their own individual internship sites, and they're scattered throughout the business learning different skills in different locations, in different departments within the business. They'll have lunch with their coworkers, go back to their internship, and then there's a little bit of time at the end of the day to reflect and take care of business and other things. So, so we wanted to really find something, a way to enhance the fitness and health aspect of Project Search that would fit into this busy schedule. Now, there's greater flexibility in certain periods throughout the program year, which roughly corresponds to a school year, since most Project Search program sites are linked with a a high school or a school district. So that is orientation, a couple of weeks of orientation at the very beginning where the days are a little less structured and there's more room for special activities. And then there's these interim weeks between the internships when they move from one to the next one. So given that, that Project Search is committed to supporting health and fitness, and we felt like this period during transition to employment was a critical time to address these issues where young people are establishing those lifelong patterns. And we recognized that HealthMatters curriculum was the right tool that's designed for the exact population that is served by Project Search. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about HealthMatters. This is what the curriculum looks like, the book. It's evidence-based, and as I said before, it is designed for the population that Project Search serves, adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. In the case of Project Search, that's young adults, but they are adults. So HealthMatters curriculum has nearly 60 different lessons, so there's a lot of material, lesson plans that are planned out, which is very helpful to instructors who are needing, to plan the year and plan each day. And it covers a variety of topics and comes at these topics from a lot of different approaches. First of all, understanding the young people that they're working with and their attitudes, their current behaviors and activities, diet, exercise, etc. And then the lessons have real activities that help them set goals for their exercise and nutrition. And then of course, there's that critical part that is so important to Project Search, that cohort support, the support they get from their cohort in meeting their goals, whether it be employment goals, health and fitness, and all those places where they intersect. So it seemed like the right curriculum. And then the other thing is that HealthMatters teaches all of these things in that context of other aspects of life, not just when you're in the gym or just when you're at your HealthMatters class, but it's learning about exercise, nutrition, and health in the context of the community, the workplace, your home, and keeping those things as an integral part of all aspects of life and not a separate activity. So again, very consistent with Project Search. We also appreciated that the curriculum takes into account that changing health behaviors is not a linear process. And I think we all can understand this. There's this starting point. I'm thinking about it. Maybe I should do something. Then I'm making plans. I'm choosing where I'm going to go. I'm buying the right clothes. And then I'm doing it. You're actually engaging. There's a maintenance where you have a regular routine and you are able to do your activity on a regular basis. And then things happen, life changes, things come up, vacations or illness or something that gets you out of your routine, and you're back to this, I've stopped, I'm not doing it, and you might come back out, and at any of these points, once you recover or get back from vacation, you could go right back into action, or you might fall back into the pre-contemplation, I'm not interested phase. So keeping all this in mind, it's so much more productive to think of it this way. So those relapses are not a disaster, it's just part of the process. So we knew we had a need to enhance health and fitness in Project Search. We chose HealthMatters as the right tool for our population and for our program model. In 2015, Julie Christensen, who's on our team, worked with where at the time she was in Rochester, and she worked with the New York Project Search programs, and also Cincinnati programs, and they piloted Health Messages, which is related to HealthMatters by the same group, and it was a big success. In 2016, UnitedHealthcare made a donation to Project Search. They purchased the HealthMatters curriculum for every Project Search program site that came to the annual conference that year, and we were able to distribute the curriculum to hundreds of Project Search program sites. And once we had done that, we wanted to really, we knew that some instructors were going to take that curriculum and run with it and just start using it, and that others would probably need more help. And so we designed this project, and we applied for funding from the Ohio DD Council to study how we could integrate the HealthMatters curriculum into Project Search. That takes us to where we are now. We are just starting year 3 of a 5-year project. Year 1 was 2017, where we were learning about the HealthMatters curriculum. Those of us on the team who were already experts had some training, and we established our grant advisory board. We surveyed instructors, and we surveyed Project Search interns, and we really wanted to find out from them what they already knew about health and fitness, what they were already doing in the Project Search classroom, what they felt like they needed to do better. We wanted to know from the interns what they wanted to learn, what they were interested in, what sort of activities that they enjoyed and didn't like. And once we had all of this information that we had gathered from our surveys with instructors and with interns, we began creating our draft guidelines to have them ready for the 2018-19 program year. In year 2, we completed writing those guidelines in the draft form, and then we planned our pilot and began our pilot trial of those guidelines. And we recruited 10 Project Search program sites in Ohio to take those guidelines and the HealthMatters curriculum into their classroom and use it, and give us feedback on how it worked and whether it was achieving the goals that we hoped, which is sort of a seamless integration of this health and fitness curriculum into the Project Search model without losing that critical focus on employment or without distracting from that. And here we are in year 3. The pilot, that 2018-19 program year is coming to an end at the end of this month. And we are getting ready to do that post-pilot knowledge assessment of the interns to find out if they're in a different place than they were before doing this HealthMatters curriculum. We're going to continue gathering instructor feedback on those guidelines so that we can then do a revision that takes into account all of this, what we've learned through this first pilot trial. We had a fun end-of-year event just this last Saturday where we, several of the Project Search interns and some families and teachers and skills trainers all came out, and we participated in the 5K walk run, and it was a great kind of wrap up to this first trial of the new guidelines. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen. Karen, are you here?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, and I'm passing it over to Karen, and she can take over the controls.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, everybody. I'm Karen. I joined the call a little bit late. I was just finishing up seeing a kiddo. But like Mary Ellen was saying, we really wanted to intertwine the HealthMatters curriculum with the employability curriculum of Project Search. So as you see on this slide, there's a visual for you in the form of this wonderful flower that showcases that health and wellness are at the core of all Project Search core standards of the employability curriculum. So you can see that the petals on this flower are all the core standards that you see in the curriculum standards. And so I wanted to highlight how health and wellness could address each of these 7 core standards. So let's take maintaining employment as an example. Some barriers that our interns and young adults with disabilities face when maintaining employment are such things such as calling in sick too often, knowing when to work and when not to work when they're sick, endurance during work hours, and therefore I listed some lessons straight out of the HealthMatters curriculum that could be used to address these specific barriers. So the ones I have listed are what are good and bad influences, and you could address how do you interact with each type of coworker, or how do you resist the bad influences at the workplace. Wants versus needs, what is good and what is bad pain when it comes to your body during the workday and in the workplace. How does your sleeping patterns affect your performance at work? And then also the last lesson I put there was, can I exercise if I feel sick? And that can also be, the conversation can be tailored to, can I work if I feel sick? These are all lessons straight from the HealthMatters curriculum, but you can see how they can be tweaked to really have that employment piece in them. So as we became more familiar with the HealthMatters curriculum, we wanted to create a guideline for Project Search instructors to use this curriculum seamlessly into their school year. This required some modification and additional resources, and that's where our project really comes into play. So we've created a draft guideline of the lesson plans for with the handouts from HealthMatters. In addition to that, we've also added in interactive activity descriptions, Kahoot quizzes, which I'll describe a little bit later, and also discussion points and how to relate the topics of health and wellness to employment specifically. And then there's also some additional resource links that we've provided in the PDF. So this is just a picture of a sample weekly plan that focuses on grocery shopping and introduces the concept of budgeting with the interactive activity of going to either a grocery store if they have the time, or just going down to the cafeteria at their work site. This lesson can tie into financial literacy, which is a core standard in the employability curriculum. And lessons are kept simple so that instructors can use as much or as little as they want from each lesson and kind of tweak it and tailor it to the needs of their interns. One of the components of the lesson plans is this online resource called Kahoot. This is a website where you can create an interactive quiz for your interns. Each of your interns will be able to log in using a computer or a phone or any device, and you can play this as a team, or you can play this as your interns competing amongst each other to see who can answer the most questions right on a certain topic. Usually during these types of presentations, we have kind of a sample quiz, but obviously with a webinar, it's a little bit difficult to get that set up. But once the site gets running and you start the game, it keeps a running tally of who gets the most answers correct, and the fastest responder also receives additional points. So it's a really fun activity to get the interns involved and requires some foundational technology skills, which is another core standard in the employability curriculum. And lots of instructors who have used Kahoot already have gone ahead and made their own quizzes because their interns have enjoyed it so much. And the good thing is, if you make the quizzes public, other people can kind of search on the website for similar topics and use the quizzes as well. So that's something you could use even starting now if you wanted to. Moving on to tell you a little bit more about our pilot, we had recruited 10 wonderful and dedicated instructors from our program sites in a variety of places in Ohio. And you can see the list of the sites right here. So you can see we kind of have a variety of places. A lot of our sites were hosted at medical centers, but that's kind of how Project Search is as a whole as well. So that's pretty representative of Project Search. So what we really wanted to learn from this pilot study was to gain feedback on the usability and feasibility of this guideline, barriers that presented themselves during implementation of the guideline, the interest and responsiveness of the interns during implementation of the guideline, and feedback for any modifications for the draft that we had made. And I'll kind of go into more specifics of our findings in a little bit later. So from our pre-assessment, so this was the assessment done back in the fall at the start of the school year. This was to see what our interns know, their perceptions of their behavior, and what they are already doing in their lives in terms of health and wellness. Our pre-pilot assessment gave us some interesting data, and here are some of the demographics. So we had 52 of the 75 interns complete our survey. The median age was 21 years old, and we had 61 male respondents and 39% female response. So the first section assessed their knowledge of health behaviors. And as you can see, the interns did very well in this section. They could identify what to do in order to be healthy, what to eat that was healthy and what not to eat. There were some incorrect answers, but an astounding percentage of correct answers, as you can see, were across the board. And on this slide, you can see that the comparison between the interns knowing something and what they're actually doing in their actual life. So this is where we begin to see this misalignment. We see that our interns, for the most part, know what is a healthy food and know how much exercise to get. But on the flip side, they are not eating the healthy foods, or they're not getting as much exercise as they want. And this is super important to consider when we are modifying the guideline, because we want this guideline to be the most effective as possible. So on the next slide, we'll see that this is the confidence scale of engaging in physical activity. And it looks like we have a mix of interns that are pretty comfortable with, that are completely confident in physical activity. And from my site visits that I observed, we had a lot of participants in Special Olympics who had exposure to structured physical activity, so that makes sense. And we also have a good amount that are somewhat confident or not confident at all when it comes to physical activity. But we must remember that confidence is also a perception of individuals, and the real question is this confidence translating to them actually doing it? From our observations and preliminary collection of feedback from the instructors, this is where kind of the framework of our guideline needs to change a little bit, and I'll talk about that more into depth in just a few minutes. From our site visits, we observed a variety of sites and spaces that were provided by the host employer. As all instructors can kind of attest to, that sometimes it's a classroom, sometimes it's a little bit bigger space. And so this way we firsthand saw how instructors were implementing all the strategies and the guidelines themselves. Another really important thing that I had observed was the food insecurity for some of our interns was surprisingly high. And thankfully, a lot of host sites provide food vouchers for interns for their hard work at their sites. But I think this also continues to be a large barrier for many interns outside of the Project Search program. But that's obviously something to address on a larger scale at a different time. So now comes this concept that I kind of referred to earlier, that we needed to change the framework of how we were using this guideline. And it might take a little bit of time to wrap your mind around it. That's why I tried to provide this visual. This need for knowledge translation, going from knowing what to do to actually doing it. So our goal is to promote healthy lifestyles for our interns to prevent further issues later later in their life through meaningful activities and in an individual's life, instead of focusing on what they're not able to do and their deficits and trying to remediate those. So in order to reframe our mindset during our health education sessions, while the smaller components and foundational knowledge is important, our goal is really to have our interns eating healthier, getting more physically active, and making better choices for their bodies and minds. So the way to do this is to get them engaged in different forms of physical activity, help them make healthier choices during lunchtime, and even breakfast in the mornings, and problem solve what they can do at home with the resources that they have, and to insert the learning objectives throughout, kind of inserting those while they're engaging in these activities that happen every day. So from the pre-assessment and from our observations, the interns have the knowledge. They've shown that through the pre-assessment and based on instructor feedback. And even though they may need reminders here and there, they know the foundational knowledge that we're trying to teach them. So our goal is to have them doing what they know and learn as they're doing it. This framework will be reflected in the changes that we'll make in the guideline, hopefully coming up. And with the feedback from the instructors, we'll be bolstering the draft of the guideline. If you guys have any questions about that concept, you could definitely ask me about that. I know that was kind of a quick synopsis of what I'm trying to get at, but this is kind of a new finding based on our feedback from this pilot study. So moving on, overall from the instructors, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback, which is great. A lot of the feedback that we got was about having really good discussions and that their interns really enjoyed playing the Kahoot quizzes online. Some of the barriers that instructors had faced were limitations in space and time dedicated to HealthMatters, because we know that the day-to-day schedule is pretty jam-packed with things that interns need to get done. So that was definitely showcased in the feedback. We've also seen that we have a wide range of interns' abilities, which requires the instructor to either modify the current lesson or even research more ideas to challenge the interns that already have the foundational knowledge but need more. And then also with the instructor feedback and with our observations, we are able to gain new ideas to add to the guideline for the final draft. So I just wanted to showcase a few instructor ideas that I had come across during my observations. And they're really fun activities that I think are really simple to use in the day-to-day classroom. So I know one instructor from Doctor's Hospital had started doing daily journaling in the morning. So they just took about 5 to 10 minutes where their interns could journal about a certain topic, whether it's their plan for the weekend, one thing that they do during the week to stay healthy, simple things like that that are quick and that they can share with the class. Another one you'll see to the right in the picture, it's kind of small, but it's a large chart of different foods that each intern and their job skills trainers have tried. They tried one new food a week and recorded whether they liked it or didn't like it. So in the green is that they liked it. The pink or red is that they did not like it. That's kind of a fun and simple way to kind of introduce these new foods. And then from Grady Memorial, they started a water intake chart for each individual where they could cross off a visual every time they filled up their water bottles. And then I know a lot of instructors that were able to project PowerPoints created their own PowerPoints to supplement the lessons to create a visual for their interns. So these are all things that we're going to be adding to our guideline as we look to modify it for the final draft. So moving on to some more of the fun stuff. These are just some pictures of our interns in action. So these are some of the interns from Springfield Regional Medical Center. They dedicate every Friday to kind of a fitness day, and they're able to use the fitness center at their host site. And they take half the day to kind of go through the routine of getting changed, going to the gym, cleaning up, and then getting changed back into their uniforms. So you can see they're on the treadmills. And then there's also a friend that has started doing Zumba, and he kind of leads it himself and gets his peers involved. Originally, we had this as a video, but they're not working on WebEx for right now. But when you go back, you'll be able to see the video. It's just a really short video of him leading himself through Zumba. And then this is at Lima. They created individual work-related stretching programs and little workout routines for their job specifically. So they kind of took components of their internship at the moment and saw what stretches would help them throughout their day. There's 2 short video clips for this one as well. Once you go back to look at the presentation later, you'll be able to see them. Mary Ellen, do you want to describe these pictures?
Yes, this was from my visit to the Otterbein Retirement Community, and I just wanted to highlight that the morning that I was there, they started with a discussion of health and work and how they go together. And I just felt like that was really, it was great to see what the interns knew about that and how they understood it, and to really, just to really lay it out. Why are we doing the physical activity? Why is it important? Why are we talking about diet when we're supposed to be working on getting a job? And it really, it was a very interactive discussion, and I could really see that the interns were getting it and understanding it, and I liked seeing that. You can just kind of see on the left the notes from the discussion, and then on the right you can see they're looking at different types of exercise and trying to classify it as cardiovascular or stretching or balance, and using these visuals to help them do the exercise. I just thought it was a clever way of doing that exercise that comes right out of the HealthMatters curriculum. And this is the Upper Valley Medical Center, where they leave the medical center and go to a career tech, Upper Valley Career Tech School that is very nearby, and they do this on Fridays, and where they can use the exercise fitness program lab for some more sort of large muscle activities. And there you can see them doing some stretching, and they're doing it with the exercise science students who go to the Career Tech School, who act as mentors to the Project Search students, which is just, I thought, a great use of community resources that these young people from these 2 programs, from the exercise fitness program and from Project Search, who are peers age-wise, were working together on exercise, fitness, and health education. So the next slide. Also at the same place, and I just wanted to show this. It was in addition to the stretches, they were incorporating some dance, like a jazzercise video that they're all doing together, and having a blast doing it. Okay. And then the last 2 slides, we just wanted to share with you the end of year 5K Karen, if you want to take over, that's fine, in describing these pictures.
Yeah, sure. So this past Saturday, we had a few sites with us at this end of the year 5K. This was hosted at Upper Valley Medical Center, and so we just had a booth there, and everyone met us there. We made custom shirts, as you can see. It made us really easy to spot. So in the first picture on the left, you can see all the yellow spots in that picture. Those are all of our interns, instructors, job skills trainers, family members that came to attend this event. And really, it was just super fun. You can see in the right, there's an instructor with one of her interns running in through the finish line coming up soon. And we had a great turnout and great participation from the interns. I had like a bunch of activities at our booth that I set up just in case there were some interns that didn't want to participate, but I didn't even have to use any of those because everyone was out there running or walking, so that was awesome. And there's another picture with a huge group of them inside waiting because it was a little bit chilly that morning, so they were just gathered there before the race started. We do have another picture that is the entire group, but we don't have access to that as of right now, but this is kind of a good depiction of how many interns we really got together, which is awesome. And then this picture on the right is one of our interns walking with his mom, and it's really cool that a lot of families showed up as well to show their support. I think that was all every picture. We have a bunch of really cool action shots, but we wanted to kind of limit the ones that had additional people in them. But it was just such a fun event, and hopefully this is something we can kind of get people together to do more often, just to promote supporting the community and also getting out there and being active, because I know a lot of the interns trained for this 5K and had to build up the endurance to actually participate in this event. So I know that was a big motivator for some of them. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that, Mary Ellen?
Well, I agree with everything you said. I mean, the day itself was great. The preparation leading up to it was also so important. And then the community and family participation was huge. And then because it was a 5K that was taking place at a facility that is also a Project Search site, I really loved seeing how the people who were working on the race, the people who were guiding the runners at different points, they knew the local Project Search interns, and then once we all had the yellow shirts, then they kind of knew us all, and they would just give a shout out to Project Search and congratulations, and it just felt so supportive and fun, and I loved it that we were at a Project Search site.
Yeah, definitely. So the last slide, I just put a few resources for everybody, just a few ones to highlight so that when you go back, you can also access these as well. A lot of you may be familiar with MyPlate. That's a really good online nutrition resource. They have a lot of lesson plans, printouts, and wonderful resources on there. And then there's also Kahoot, which I talked about, which was the online interactive quiz web app that you could use to kind of engage your interns in different types of games and stuff like that to quiz them in a fun way. There's also another one called Food Models printouts, and these are cool, like front to back printouts that have like a food item, and on the back is the nutrition label with all the different nutrition components with it. That's something that I just found on the internet, which I thought was a really cool option to have. And then also Planet Fitness is having this teen summer program. I know a lot of our interns may already be not in their teens already, but for those that actually apply, Planet Fitness is allowing teens to work out at their facilities for free this summer. They just need a parent to help them sign up initially, and I think either to supervise or something like that. But that's just something for you guys to check out and kind of a takeaway for you guys, so that if you do have interns that are on the younger end, that they could take advantage of this program, which I think is really great. That is all I have. And if you guys have any questions, we can take some right now, I think. Or if you think of them later, you can always email myself or Mary Ellen at our email.
Thanks, Mary Ellen and Karen. There is a question that came through. Is there a recommended number of minutes of exercise per day or week that search should provide to interns?
I think that's kind of it really varies based on the needs of the interns and the availability of space for physical activity. So we wouldn't really want to prescribe a certain number of minutes. I think there's a certain amount of physical activity incorporated into the curriculum as it's written and as we've written the guidelines. But again, we do need to leave some flexibility for the instructors to modify it for their space and time constraints. Karen, did you want to add anything?
No, that sounded good. I think obviously there's the general amount of minutes, but I think in terms of the number of minutes that they need to be getting within Project Search, there's no such number.
Right.
But to encourage it outside of the program as well, not just, oh, we need to get this many minutes within the workday, but also that once they leave Project Search, that's when they have the time to kind of have that leisure time of, oh, I could go outside for a walk. And I think because their days are already jam-packed with working at their internships, there's definitely already a physical activity component to many of those opportunities. So there's definitely not a time or amount of minutes that we're recommending during the workday.
And I also think to add to what Karen said, that the activities like journaling or just discussions can really kind of reinforce that at-home exercise that they do and allow them to sort of share that and encourage each other that way.
Thank you. If you have any questions, please put them in a chat box or a question and answer box, and then the presenters can answer them. While we're waiting for questions, I did have a couple of, oh, there's another one. Hang on. I'm going to hang on to mine. Do you know, or are you going to collect data to see if the teachers and participants found their workday was better because of exercise?
Do you want to answer this, or do you want me to do it?
I was just going to say, we don't have an assessment that specifically addresses that. We will get to some of that through just the general feedback that we're collecting. I don't think we showed we didn't discuss the feedback forms a lot, but Karen, if you want to jump in.
Sure. So along with each weekly plan, basically the sheet that I showed you, I can go back to it. Let's see.
Yeah.
This sheet right here is also the sheet we used as a feedback form for each lesson that all the instructors had implemented. So we're in the process of collecting these from the instructors to see what they used from each lesson plan, how did the discussion questions go, and any additional activities that they had done would be recorded on this feedback sheet. So we're still in the process of looking through all those and collecting them, because I know some of the instructors are still in their last few weeks of the semester, so they're not completely done with that as well. But, I mean, that would be something to consider, right? Like, is this actively making their days go smoother, having a better stress-free work day? Are they feeling more accomplished by the end of the day? I think that's something to look for. We just haven't measured it, per se.
Our focus currently is on designing the curriculum. Is it working? Is it feasible? Is it helpful? Are they learning? So that's why we're assessing more of knowledge and behavior of the interns and the instructor satisfaction. Is it fitting into their design of their project search program site? And then our next steps, definitely we would really want to look at more of that sort of change in attitude and outlook and satisfaction among the interns. And I think that would be sort of the next step once we have really defined what the guidelines are and have that more refined and finalized. And then the next trial would focus more on the interns and the effect on the interns. Right now, we're really more developing the tool. And that's our focus.
Another question, are the guidelines available for instructors, or was this just part of the curriculum?
The guidelines are still in a draft form, and we are willing to share the draft form for sure. But we're hoping to have something, the revised version available. I hope by
the start of next school year.
Yeah, that's our goal.
And then is this weekly lesson plan part of the curriculum?
Yes.
So
yes. It's structured in weekly lesson plans that can be done in consecutive weeks, but we also recognize that not every week is going to include one of the HealthMatters lessons. So we don't have one for every week of the school year, but it's so close.
Right.
But
and so with
no, go ahead.
Sorry, keep going. I was just going to say that in addition to the revised guideline, I do hope to have kind of a side-by-side of the weekly lesson plans with the core standards of the employability curriculum. That way people can see the tie-in between our guideline with the curriculum, so that it's not necessarily an addition to what they're already doing, but can kind of be integrated in, so that it's almost like a weekly lesson plan that they don't have to plan for already.
Then another question is, what is the cost for the curriculum?
The HealthMatters curriculum, Yasmina, you probably know this better than I do. It's available through
Sure, I can answer that one.
Yeah.
So it's about $56 on Amazon. That's the cheapest version. Then you can just get it, and then and you will be sharing these weekly lesson plans. So are you charging for these?
Any licensed project search program site will have access to the guidelines once they're complete. And
Great.
For now, people can request them and they can have the draft version in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
Just keeping in mind that there's going to be a more complete version coming out. And that will be made available to all project search program sites. It's just one of the resources that they have as a licensed project search program site.
Thank you. So while I'm waiting for any other questions from the audience, I did have one of my own. What are your next steps for integrating HealthMatters into project search, or what do you see for the future?
Well, I think we addressed this some before. We have a couple sort of specific plans for the more immediate future. We would like to first of all, have the finalized guidelines in a format that could be in a print format and in an online format that people can access, either whichever way they're more comfortable using. And then having some online learnings related to HealthMatters and Project Search, and using the two together that would be available as videos as part of Project Search is these online courses, and we'd like to add some courses on how to incorporate HealthMatters into the Project Search program. So that will be part of this 5-year plan that we're in the middle of now. Down the road, we'd like to get at some more questions on the effects if we could get the funding, and just sort of a wider distribution among Project Search program sites and bigger studies where we could address things like changes in lifestyle and quality of life and satisfaction at work, and maybe even an impact on maintenance of employment and things like that. So there's a lot of questions that we would love to ask if we can get the funding and to do it. In the immediate future, we just want to continue expanding to other Project Search programs, and then maybe also have some videos and instructions for HealthMatters in other transition program models, and just how to incorporate fitness into other types of transition to work programs.
Thank you.
Did I forget anything, Karen?
No, you got it. That was great.
Any other questions? While we're waiting to see if there are any other questions, I wanted to thank you guys again for this wonderful presentation. Do you have anything in conclusion to add before we sign off?
Well, I just wanted to thank you and Beth for working with us and arranging this whole webinar series. It's been so great. I've listened to all of them and learned so much, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it is our pleasure to be able to disseminate this wonderful work that Project Search sites have been doing. So it's another way of being able to reach a wider audience. Well, thank you all. I don't think there. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add one more thing. You reminded me to shout out to the instructors who helped with this trial of the guidelines, and how amazingly dedicated and creative they are, and how much they're adding to this project. I just wanted to make sure to say that.
Great.
Their ideas and energy are critical.
Well, thank you, Karen and Mary Ellen. We have recorded this, and we will make it available along with the PowerPoints and some resources that Karen and Mary Ellen had. Thank you for spending an hour with us. If you have any questions, please make sure to contact either of us, and we are going to stick around for a bit to see if there are any other questions that come through. Otherwise, feel free to sign off. Thank you. Yes, thank you. I was actually searching for that slide. And I was scrambling to become a presenter.
I don't know how to switch it back to you, so I just did it myself.
No, that's perfect. we got there. So.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there are any other questions, so feel free to sign off. Thank you, ladies.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You.
Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Yep, you too.
Thank you. You
Bye.
too. Bye.